trade with his DP and still hit the ultra. Tell me when you're ready. You have to trade I think you have to trade medium to get it. That's if it trades, but if you hit me high enough, you don't have to. So just hit me when I'm at the top of my jump arc, okay? Oh, that was a little too early. There you go. Is it the PS3 picture? Okay. So in my case, we're having a little technical difficulty here. But in my case, for example, if you were to jump in and I were to hit him with a light DP, for example, it would punish his anti-air clean. If I hit him at the highest part of his jump arc, then I can actually punish with my super. Of course, it would have to be the right specific super, but I could. Or in this case, if he's halfway towards, almost in the corner position, I can punish with my ultra. Oh, I'm sorry. All right, well then. And as you can see, it'll punish for the Juggle Ultra, and that's a pretty decent anti-air damage combo. Because really when it's anti-air, you really can't get too many things off. Here, I'm going to change the gauges just to be full, so that we can do constant combos just to show here. But yeah, for example, there are also many other anti-air punishes that Ken can do. If we went into an advanced one, I'll show you this one. Go ahead and jump in. I want to trade with you, so jump in and do hard kick. Okay, try again. Ooh, that's immediate clean. Maybe I have to do a little earlier in the trade. I'm sorry, folks, I'm just really good at anti-airs. Okay, so how did I usually trade on that? Go ahead. Use medium kick. Nope, didn't trade for that either. Oops. Try Grace Punch. Oops. Wow. It's not trading. I don't know how I usually trade that. Maybe because it's later timing. Yeah. Okay, but trading is not something that you could necessarily rely on. There are people like Daigo out there who do know what trades, when it trades, and how to use it. And then again, of course, if you play against like a Sagat, he's gonna purposely trade with you so that he can stand roundhouse ultra you. So those are tactics for other types of characters. But in this case, Ken wouldn't necessarily need to be traded. But when he can trade, there are things that he can do. And there are also other advanced combos that you can lead into from that. So, that being said, if you folks don't know how to use a super, we'll demonstrate that. Supers are generally double quarter circle motions, depending on what kind of character you're using. In this case, these are Shoto-based characters who are Shoryuken, Fireball, Tatsumaki type characters. So these guys are just quarter circles. If you look at the controller here that I'm using, this is actually a Hori Fight Commander Pro fight pad. I don't use an arcade stick. It's very surprising, huh? Check that out. But on mine, for example, if you were to do a double quarter circle motion, which would be down diagonal forward, if you did that twice, down diagonal forward, it would equal with a punch or a jab of any sort, which would change the trajectory, of course, of the super. But if you did it with light jab, it would actually do a super. Now, doing the two motions with the light jab being square, in this case for the PlayStation, we'll do a very short version of his Shoryu Reppa. Now, if I were to use the medium version using the triangle, which would be his strong, it would actually go a little bit further. And then, of course, coming to the end here, using the RB, which would be, or excuse me, R1, which would be his Fierce Punch, will give you the extended range to go all the way, you know, basically a half-screen type super. Of course, it does have its flaws that can be beat by other things that you'll learn on your own as you move into, you know, more advanced things with your own character. And for Ryu, he has his Shinkyu Hadoken, which does have different ranges, can be used versatilely in different ways. You know, there's a fast version. You know, you got 3 different versions. For example, if he were to DP me on an anti-air, he could use the slow version and catch me for a full combo. And there you go. See, there are damaging things you can do from the anti-air. Now, there are ultra combos as well. So moving into the ultra combo, basically you have this green bar over here, which counts as your revenge gauge. And basically it starts out as a red. It starts out red and it's empty. When you take hits and focus attacks, you will build this gauge. The super gauge builds when you do damage or special moves to other people. So, you know, when you do a standard jab, something like that, it will not build your super meter. But yeah, the ultra combos are usually freeze frame type moves. They do massive amounts of damage depending on the gauge. If the gauge is at the first stick that we have here, then it will be probably like a standard combo, you know, standard good combo damage. But if you get it over here to the full portion and you happen to use it fully loaded on someone, then it's very damaging and very scary to be hit with. So I'll demonstrate Ken's combo here. Happens to be, since he's a Shoto, it's a double quarter circle motion using the triple punch. In my case, I have my buttons mapped over here to my shoulder 1 button. So it's the same thing as I had done before, the double quarter circle. So I would do double quarter circle and triple punch, and that would activate his ultra combo. You know, there are many different ways to use the ultra combo. There are just frame combos that lead into it. There are anti-air punishers that can be used to juggle the ultra. There are frame traps that you can actually fool someone into getting hit by the ultra. You know, of course, that's depending on the player's skill, of course. But you can do these kinds of things, so it's pretty interesting. You know, mainly just have fun with it, especially if you're playing Street Fighter. You know, it has been out for a while, so if you do get online, keep in mind you will be playing against some vets if there are out there. You know, and everyone online wants to win in any different way. So, you know, just in general, you know, get to use your own character and you know, learn the character, learn him or her. You know, become a character specialist if that's who you like. You know, learn the matchup thread. Don't worry about tiers. Don't listen to all that stuff in the hype. You know, because honestly, in the FGC, what people look for is individuality. A sponsor, if you ever wanted to get a sponsor, for example, sponsor's not going to say, "Oh, I'm going to get this guy because you know, he chose a top tier character." That's not the reason why the sponsor chose him. The sponsor probably chose him because he was very successful with whatever character that he's using, and he brings hype to the community. So in his own way, he's kind of like a star. So it's kind of like the same thing here. You know, learn your own character, learn what you want to know, learn the matchup threads, and then you'll know how to defeat other characters. You'll know what works against them, and you'll know where you can put in the holes. So I mean, as me and Justin play, we play different characters, of course. Y play Ken, you know, he plays some other characters, and you know, we all do our own thing. But in the long run, you know, we want to become character specialists. We're not about the top tiers. We're not about all that, you know, and stuff like that. So I mean, that was a brief tutorial here today. You know, we'll show some combos now. We'll move into like some different types of things that you want to, you know, lead into, and what will be constant bread and butters and things like that. Nothing too advanced, but we'll do some B&Bs. For example, like if we're using Ken here, one of his most common. Let me take off the super here so I don't end up constantly activating that. Okay, so here, in this case, for Ken, if you can get into footsie tool range using his light kick, then you can lead into a standard jab Shoryuken combo. Very, very good. Does give a light knockdown, so when they get knocked down, they can actually tech the knockdown and quick stand, But if they quick stand, that offers you for kind of like a vortex opportunity. Now with Ken, his jumping light kick is very ambiguous. So when you're actually jumping on someone and they're standing up, it almost looks like it's going to cross up, or it might land in the front. Now cross-ups, we'll get into that in just a second, and I'll explain how the cross-ups work. But for example, if we were going to use a, oh god, okay, time is a little different here. Okay, so if we're using a standard combo, it would be something that hits more than once. So for example, low short into jab, and and there you go. It says a 3-hit combo. Good job, big deal. Really nothing crazy. So I mean, you can also use your strongs that will link in. And a lot of the time, when you, for example, when you hit someone with like a strong or a fierce, it creates hit stun, and he also does get stun because there's a stun meter. Now, when you create hit stun, it opens up opportunities for different things, and this comes from learning your frame data and learning your hitboxes. Because now, if I jab him, I know I can connect to a Tatsumaki because that connects because of the amount of frames it is allowable to do it. Now, if he was on block and blocked my low strong, obviously my Tatsumaki is not going to connect because and he can actually punish me because on block this is -2. So if he were to light jab during the animation of my Tatsu, he will beat me. And there you go. Also, it also has different properties. Of course, the Tatsu makes you kind of go over him, as you can see. And then it leads to other mistakes. So you want to be careful using those things, and you want to learn your frame data, like I said. So yeah, combos. Basically, there are things that link into other things. For example, I'll show you here. This would be like one of Ken's standard BMBs. I use that combo all the time because it leads into the soft knockdown. Now, if you were to quick stand, now it leads me into a vortex. As you can see, that was a cross-up. Basically, what a cross-up is when you're jumping over an opponent, trying to hit the rear portion of his hitbox, or hurtbox, excuse me. So, in this case, the cross-up, basically like my back knee is hitting the back of his shoulder. And it's allowing me to hit him from behind. Now, you can block cross-ups, but they can get very tricky. So, for example, I'll have Justin here block the cross-up. Oops. As you can see, he blocked the cross-up. So now he's blocking that specific direction, and it's the opposite direction as what you would block when someone goes for a cross-up. You would always block that opposite direction. Now there are certain characters that do certain things that can make it very hard for you to block those, and that's why we're just demonstrating some of the simple ones. Now using the focus attack, remember as I was saying before, you can do cancels with the focus attack, so that leads into intermediate combos where you can just punch, 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 or punch medium fireball, and then you can cancel from it. And they're causing, there you go, and causing the combo. And those would be pretty intermediate combos. Very common. A lot of people do use that to do things. For example, if I were playing Ken, I'd probably do something like that. Pretty damaging combo. It does use 2 meters when you're using a cancel versus when you're using an EX attack. It only uses 1. But so keep that in mind. You have to have 2 meters stopped in order to cancel. So you have to be very sparingly with what you're using, which leads us into meter management. Meter management is a big deal. You want to know how much meter that you have, what you can use your meter for effectively, and your opponent. For example, Ryu has 1 meter. His red fireball, or EX fireball, is very, very devious, comes out very quickly, and at close ranges can definitely knock you down to 3-hit fireball. Can also lead in the corner to an ultra. So, as he'll go ahead and demonstrate, the fireball can lead into an ultra in the corner. Very dangerous. So you have to be able to manage your meter with your opponent as well. So for example, if I have 2 meters, usually I would use that for mix-up purposes. So let's say I managed to throw my opponent, and then I would set up a cross-up, or be tricky. and do a DP on wake up, and that would give me, my combo that would lead into whatever it would give me. So I mean, there are tons of things that you can get into with the shuttle characters. There's a lot of 50-50 going on.